we're gonna make it's called Dippity Dye. It's a type of paper that when it gets wet, it kind of expands the color. So we're gonna create a little Dippity Dye snake. It's a little hard to show on the camera, but the snake kind of expands. It's got a little tongue, and it kind of expands. And I'll show you. You'll see it in the classroom hanging. So what will happen, or has happened, is I've already taken a tracer that I created, and I traced the outline for the snake's body on your paper. You'll also get a basket of markers. Now please, these are my markers. I'd like to keep them that way, and I like to keep them nice. So make sure that you are capping them up all the way when you're done. Make sure that you are also putting them all back. You're not taking any of them with you, because I just got out a brand new set of markers, and I really want to make sure that all of my students have a chance to use them. So you're going to take your Sharpie, and you have to use a Sharpie for this step because your markers will actually blur when we get them wet. So we don't want them to, your name to blur. So you're going to use your Sharpie marker. I would write it towards the end of the tail, which is this little part right here. That way when you hold it, you'll see it. It'll be at the end of his body here. Okay. This is going to be a 2-day project. The second day is pretty easy. You're going to need your scissors for that day. So we want to make sure we bring our scissors next time. But what you're going to do after you have your name on it with the Sharpie is you can just start, and you can use any colors that you like. There is no requirements for this as far as color, but I would definitely outline this line. That way you know kind of where that line is when you go to cut it, because we have to cut it out next time with our scissors. So I'm just kind of tracing that line. And then snakes, if you know about different breeds of snakes, a lot of snakes here in Florida have rings on them. So you can make your snake have rings. There's diamondback snakes that have like that diamond shape. Totally up to you guys as far as how you do it. But when you're putting your lines on, I would definitely leave white space. And let me show you why. Because when we go to spray it, oops, this is actually upside down. When we go to spray it with the water, the marker will expand and fill in those white spaces. So these lines that I drew here were about the same as these, but when they got wet, they kind of expanded. So you'll see my circles here, they got a little bit bigger. Okay, so keep some white space in your design as you make it. Okay. And you can put more on here. I just did a little bit really quick so you can see this happen. So what'll happen after you're done with all of the designs on your snake, you're going to bring me your messy mat and your snake, and then I'm going to spray it with the water. So I'm going to spray it right here on the camera so you can kind of see what's going to happen before. Nothing really super crazy happens right now. It happens more after or while it's drying. But if you remember when we did our Art to Remember project, we drew the hearts and then we outlined them with the marker, and then we gently put the water on and it made the marker pull and do all its stuff. It's going to be the same principle here. So I'm just going to gently and lightly spray the surface, and you can kind of already see some of those areas starting to run and bleed. And once we've sprayed it, then we're going to take this and put it on the drying rack and let it dry overnight until we see each other again, and then we'll do the last step. Okay, our snakes have had a chance to dry, and now we're going to finish them up. Pretty simple, but one step that we can do if you'd like to add is we did our marker last time, and when I added the water, it did its little spreading thing. But what if you want to do, you can add or come back in with the markers, and I'll have those on the tables for you, and add some additional details. Now this won't bleed or expand like it did on the other one, but it'll just kind of give a little bit more of a design element if you choose to do that. We only take a few minutes to do that because we want to move on to our next project. But I'm just putting this line right next to my orange line because since I made a pattern last time, I know that this is where it would go in the pattern. And if you want to do a different shape, I'm just doing all lines, but if you want to do maybe some circles in some of your blank spaces, or you want to, you know, do another design, or maybe you want to re-outline your tracing line that we're going to actually use to cut here in just a second. You could do all those different things. Okay, I think I'm done. I think I'm going to accentuate his eye a little bit. Okay, now this is a little tricky to do or see or even see on the camera, but my pencil line is still there. It's really subtle, but I know it was right next to my purple line because that's what I used last time. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut right on that pencil line. One trick with your scissors is if you, as you're cutting, you open them really wide, and then as you slowly close them down, you move the paper. So I'm opening up my scissors really wide, and I'm slowly closing them down. Instead of doing little snips at it, you'll get, when you do little snips, you end up getting little lines, little like cut marks. This way I'll get nice smooth lines. So I'll open up my scissors as wide as I can and then close them down. Okay, go back to the beginning. Stays in its little circle. And then I'm also going to give you a little piece of red paper for his tongue, because a snake is never a snake without his tongue, right? So we're going to actually glue or tape it underneath the back of his head. So if you have your paper like this and your name is showing, you'll know that this is his head and then this is the back of his head. So you can put it like that. Now if you want, you can leave it straight. If you want, you could bend it and make it crinkled, or you can curl it. So the way you curl it is if you hold the end of this and you just kind of wrap it around something. This marker is probably too fat. You get some, actually I can just use my fingers. I'm just kind of pinching it like this with my fingers and rolling it. And I'm pushing kind of hard against my fingers, but you can see it's starting to make a curl. So I'm holding here, pinching it here. Don't pull it because you'll rip the paper. But I'm just kind of running my thumb and my finger down that. So it made it a little twisty. And then I'll be coming around and giving you a little piece of tape. Just kind of take that and attach it to the back of his head. Make sure your tape is all on his face, not sticking out, so it doesn't have the sloppy spot. And then when you lift it up, he will expand and makes your little snake for you. And you can carry him with his tail, or you could carry him with his head. And you will be taking these home with you today.